Now let us take a look into signals. Signals are something that get introduced with Angular 17, and because they are introduced with Angular 17, I want to quickly explain what has changed with it. Here you can see a code that was written before 17. We have two variables, counter and counter multiplied by 10. Both of them are initially defined with 0. We have a function increment, which increments the counter variable by 1 with the plus plus. We have counter multiplied by 10, which get applied with the counter value multiplied by 10. We have the decrease function that doing the reverse, which means it decreased the counter by 1. And we have the counter multiplied by 10, which then get updated again with the new counter value. As you can see, of course, we can kind of make all of that easier in one function and whatever, but what I want to show is quickly go over how the template looks before and how variables work before. So now we take quickly a look on the same component, but written with Angular 17. The main differences you can see is happening here. On the left side, we have the two definitions, and in every function, increment and decrease, we setting this counter multiplied by 10 again each time we change in the counter. And what signals now allows us is that we can use or make use of the computed signals. In the right side, you see the counter multiplied by 10, and then we calling computed. And computed is a special type of signal because you have a function that you provide with it in the parameters, and there we say it should return the value of the counter, because counter is not a variable anymore, it's also a signal with initial value 0, and multiply that by 10 and return it, which means we defined and told Angular that it should look for changes of counter and multiply it by 10 to get the value that it should return from the counter multiplied by 10. Also, what changes is on the top, you see that we're now calling the variables. We have a function call with no parameters to get the value. That's important because that's the functionality of signals. So, let us ready to learn Angular 19, 20 and 21. This course covers everything new in this latest versions. From hydration, event replay, resource API, signal forms, we cover it all. You will get a complete playground app showcasing all features. Plus, we will build a weather app from scratch to implement everything hands-on. Full source code for both projects included. Check the link in the description. Quickly over all of the theoretically stuff I've told. So, on the right side, you see a kind of UI, how the template would look like. We have the two H3 element that's on the right side, and we have the two buttons for increase and decrease. We're defining a counter signal here. That's now our counter signal with the current value. And we have the function without parameters to get us the current value and showing it in the template. What we're also defining is the computed value. That's, as I said, a special type of signal, the computed signal. And as you can see in the orange box, it says depends on counter. That's super important because computed signals understand what type of signals they're using to calculating their value. So they have a function kind of instead of on the top getting the value, they knowing it they depending on counter and also have kind of a current value to kind of caching the value to not recalculating it each time. And yeah, in the template we also calling that counter multiplied by 10 function to get this value. So what is super important for computed signals is that they initially calling, and in that initial call, in the initial getting the value, they defining their dependencies, which means you should guarantee that every signal that you're using in the computed get called. If you have a if condition or a switch case, whatever, and they use different variables, the computed value signal will not understand when a change or update has to be made. In that case, it's super easy here, but it is really important that you understand that signals or computed signals has to know which dependencies it has. That also means if you have multiple signals that you're using in a computed value, the dependencies or the depends on will increase with every signal you're calling, which means if one of the dependencies changes, it will call the function again and get a new value from it. So now we will quickly go over the increase and decrease path. In that case, we will only take a look on the increase because the decrease doing the same, but yeah, to quickly go over it. So what we are doing is we click on the increase button. This set will then go to the signal that we have defined. This set then changes the value, the current value of the signal. Then the signal knows it has a new value, and because the signal knows that it has a new value, also the computed signal knows it because it knows that it depends on counter. And as you can already see, the UI has updated with the value 1. The computed signal now, because the counter has changed, rechecking or recalling its function, and by knowing that it has to recalculate its value, it also updates in the UI.